Hi, my name is Joshua Taffin, and welcome to the final class takeaway where I'm going to cover what I've learned from Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 4. And these seem all over the place. These two go hand in hand. This one's about music. I like music, so I was like, I'm going to do this as my chapter review. So let's get started. So Chapter 1, I'm going to move over here, sorry. Chapter 1 basically goes over 2020 and how social media and other outlets affected the events happening to us. How news affected COVID-19. How TikTok increased during this time and how information about events changed the viewpoint of that event because of media. So the changes in media communication and its benefits it had on current events. So this was seen on TikTok when nurses and doctors during the COVID-19 pandemic shared their stories and testimonies of what they actually saw. And some of these testimonies and stories would have not been shared on news because they might either been graphic or didn't want to share the full story. So that's what communication during 2020 was, and how media now, even 4 years after COVID-19, how media has changed. We saw the downfall of Twitter, the downfall of Twitter turning into X. We might see the downfall of TikTok. We saw the creation of Threads on Instagram Reels. So it has changed, and it will continue to change. And then the history and timeline of media and communication. So basically runs down how media was perceived in way back in the past, and how communication was brought up, and how it's changing now, and why media is important, and how it affects us in general. Information is spread through media. We consume media information through movies, TV shows, TikTok, music. That's how we consume information, and how it affects us in general. How does it invoke our feelings? How do we interpret this? Because sometimes we have to go deeper into what we see. Is this true? Is this not? In later chapters, we had to figure out how to understand fake news, and how to overcome it, and how to separate our feelings from it, and how to spot it. And so Chapter 1 basically covers 2020 and how it affects us. I know, talking from my Chapter 1 review, I was like, in 2020 it happened. It felt like a whole decade in a year, and how so much in 4 years has changed with media. So there's my Chapter 1 summary. You also have Chapter 2, which goes through the internet and the different eras of the digital media age. So it basically goes over how the pre-web, the creation of the web, how the web picked up, how it literally jumped off, and how it is not crazier, how it's different from when it first started. So you have the eras of the internet, you have the pre-web, you have Web 1.0, which started getting out the internet, all of the information on the internet like that. You have Web 2.0, which is from the 1990s until the late 2000s, which is, there is internet, but there's limited information. You can still access things, many things, more than the pre-web and Web 1.0, but not enough. And then Web 3.0 is from the early 2010s to now, and how everything's changing. How during this time period we got to see the creation of Instagram, the creation of TikTok, AI coming to factor in media. So in this chapter, I also learned that creation and spread of info, how information was spread through the internet and through the digital age. Building communities. This is big in Web 2.0 and Web 3.0. Online communities, online communication, how it was important, and how it has increased through social media. And basically social media skyrocketed with AI in it too, to help everyone access information. Manipulating data, this is where we got into deepfakes, and this is what I covered in my research project. Deepfakes, which is either causes misinformation, there are a form of fake news, kind of a form of propaganda where it invokes anger and defamation of character. It causes that, and how media has been manipulated, and it still is with fake news, propaganda, deep fakes, and then you have controlling data. And all of this is what I've learned in Chapter 2. And then Chapter 4, which does not go with any of this, but I love music, so I'm going to talk about it. Goes in through the evolution of music and the changes in the industry. The pioneers of the music industry originally was from African Americans that really started rock and roll country, and we kind of see that. I think I made this before Cowboy Carter came out, Chapter 4, but we have Cowboy Carter by Beyonce, and people are like, Beyonce's like, this is not a country album, this is a Beyonce album. And I think it's really cool to see how Beyonce and other black artists are reclaiming music that they started, that pioneers in African American and black artist pioneers started rock and roll, started country, and how they're reclaiming it. Because these are dominated by white singers, and how African American singers are reclaiming it back. And I think that's really cool. And we saw that with Cowboy Carter, and I think this came... Chapter 4, my Chapter 4 summary came out before Cowboy Carter was announced. You also have the history of physical music media to digital media. So you have the records. We talked about how they were originally wax at first, and then they came into the hard plastic, and then you have Trans Am, cassette, whatever. Into digital media, where you have streaming services for music, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, SoundCloud, the whole hoopla, the whole everything. And then changes in music genres, where some genres combined, like rock and pop, and you got alternative, indie, and how a lot of them were intertwined, mixed together to form new genres and new pioneers for those genres. And then you have artists' rights and democracy. And I put Taylor Swift because she's having an album released out this Friday, April 19th. I'm super excited, so that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to cover Chapter 4. And how artists are fighting back, trying to own their masters, trying to own their work. Because a lot of them don't own it. Like Taylor Swift, she doesn't own her previous first 6 albums, so she's trying to reclaim it. In big music news now, she was from Big Machine Records, which owns iHeartRadio, which owns a lot of the country radio stations. And basically, Skid Row, who bought that out, who stole Taylor Swift's masters and songs, is partnered up with UMG, which Universal Music Group, which Taylor Swift is on, and trying to control that. So that's kind of big music news now, where you have someone who stole someone art, and going into a UMG, which has Interscope Republic Records, which is Taylor Swift's under Republic. Lana Del Rey, Billie Eilish is under Interscope, Casey Musgraves is under Interscope, and how he can control anything, any music they produce. And so, Chapter 4, kind of eyeball on this, but I thought it was fascinating with learning from the pioneers of music, like Big Mama Thornton or Ma Rainey, to how you have artists like Beyonce that were inspired by them, reclaiming music made from African Americans that really help influence the genre now. And so I thought that was really cool and fascinating, and that's really what stuck with me throughout the class. And so the class takeaway: media is ever changing and will continue to change. How we interpret media will change. How media itself will change. We see the jumpstart of AI in the recent years, mainly since 2020, how AI has become more popular media. Communication and the way we connect, it's going to change. Communication, how we communicate with others. We can communicate through music, telling our stories, telling the political climate, whatever, through music. Same thing with TV shows, movies. How does media affect communication? What we see, what we interpret, affects how we talk to someone that interprets a different issue, different side of the same coin. How culture affects the way we perceive media and how we communicate with others. How what we grew up with, what our beliefs interpret what we see, if we disagree with it or not, and how to adapt to the changes with media and different communication styles. Media is going to change, and we can't control that, but we have to adapt to it, or it will bite us in the butt, or it will cause a Black Mirror episode, or then there will come soft rains where technology media will have a downfall too when we have a downfall. Like, for example, then there'll come some rains. I have been in a Ray Bradbury kick lately because of watching Fallout. Weird. I know, but it shows the downfall of technology when that humans create the downfall of technology and the downfall of media. And that they caused this issue, they caused the problems, but they never fixed it. They stirred the pot, but never licked the spoon. They were kerosene to the fire, gasoline to the fire. So, because they weren't willing to adapt and to change. So, this class has taught me that media is ever changing, and we can't control that. But what we can control is how to interpret media, how to communicate with others with the media that we see, and how we need to adapt in how communication is affected by media. How what we hear from on the radio or see on TV, we have to interpret it if it's fake news. If it is either propaganda or satire or hoaxes, we have to know that in order to communicate well. Because if we don't communicate well, it will burn bridges and it will not cause unity. It will only cause separation. So this class was fun. I really enjoyed it. Looking at it from a psychology point of how we interpret media into a cultural point. I love pop culture, and it was fun to see pop culture in this class because you hardly see pop culture in classes unless it's an English class or a lit class, whatever. And this class really shows that we can enjoy media, and we can enjoy technology and learn the history behind how record players were made, and learn how some groups are experimented by media and how media affects us behaviorally. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and I really enjoyed this class and all the content that was in it. Thank you.